I always thought the worst day of my life was the one my wife told me she needed space. She said it like she was choosing a new brand of coffee, calm, disinterested, almost polite. But nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to the day I got the call about my daughter. It was a Tuesday. That much I remember clearly. Tuesdays were always quiet at work, just enough paperwork to keep my head down, just enough peace to pretend everything at home wasn't slowly unraveling. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something in my gut told me to pick it up. Mr. Hammond? A woman's voice. Steady. Too steady. This is County General. Your daughter was brought in by ambulance. We need you to come immediately. I don't remember the drive. I must have run red lights, cursed at old women in Buicks, ignored every single traffic law in the book. All I know is I pulled into the emergency lot like my car was on fire. Some security guy tried to stop me, but one look at my face must have told him not to bother. When I got inside, they didn't take me to a room with a bed or machines or my baby girl hooked up to tubes. No. They took me to a window. A window with blinds half drawn. A cop stood next to me, tall guy, square jaw, probably someone's hero on paper. But to me, in that moment, he was just the messenger of something I didn't want to hear. He looked at me, serious. Take a look inside quietly, he said. I did. And my whole damn body started to shake. Inside that room, cold, bright, too clean for what was happening, was my 14-year-old daughter. Macy. My sweet, smart, sarcastic Macy. The girl who beat me at chess when she was 8. The girl who still called me daddy when she was half asleep. And next to her, hooked up to IVs, bruised in places no father should ever see on his child, was a nurse, whispering something soft, comforting. But Macy wasn't crying. She was staring straight ahead, blank, like someone had turned her off. I don't know how long I stood there. Seconds? Minutes? I couldn't feel my legs. I wanted to rip the door off its hinges, run to her, tell her everything would be okay. But I couldn't move. Was she in an accident? I managed to choke out. The cop hesitated. That hesitation was a scream all on its own. We believe she was assaulted, he said, low and clipped. She's in shock. We're still gathering information. Assaulted. My mind went blank. All I could think of was how that word was too clean, too civilized. It didn't match the rage building inside me like a tidal wave. Then he added something that made everything twist into something even uglier. She named someone. Someone she trusted. I turned toward him, my voice hoarse. Who? He looked me straight in the eyes. She said, it was someone close. A family friend. Someone who's been around the house. I went still. Every birthday party. Every barbecue. Every holiday. Every time I let someone inside my home thinking he's harmless. A guy who shook my hand, laughed at my jokes, said he admired how hard I worked. A friend. I didn't need to hear the name. Not yet. Because deep down, I already knew. I'd seen the signs. I'd ignored the gut feelings. Because sometimes, denial is easier than believing evil wears a familiar face. That night was the death of the man I used to be. The trusting husband. The quiet provider. The fool. And what rose from those ashes was someone colder. Sharper. A man who wasn't going to cry in the corner or wait for justice to stumble through its bureaucratic maze. This wasn't just about Macy anymore. It was about all of them. Every person who failed her. Every lie that kept her silent. Every smile that was really a mask. They thought they could keep secrets. They had no idea who they were dealing with. They say when something breaks inside a man, you can hear the silence echo louder than a scream. That's what it felt like in the car after I left the hospital. Me, gripping the steering wheel like I was trying to crush it in my hands, staring through the windshield as if the road ahead could make sense of what I'd just seen. I didn't go home. Couldn't. The thought of walking through that front door and seeing her shoes by the door, her drawings on the fridge, knowing what happened while I was too busy pretending we were still a normal family? No. Instead, I drove. Nowhere in particular. Just away. Let the engine hum beneath me like it could carry me back in time to when she was safe. But it didn't. You know what really haunts me? All the little things I ignored. Macy used to love wearing this oversized hoodie of mine, an old army green one. Smelled like sawdust and coffee. Said it made her feel safe. She stopped wearing it a couple months ago. Claimed it was too itchy. I should have known better. She stopped sitting on the couch with us during movie night. Started sleeping with the light on again. Her grades dipped a little, nothing drastic, just enough to raise a flag I never bothered to wave. And then there was him. He always acted too friendly, too interested, but not in a way you could call out without looking paranoid. He'd roughhouse with her a little too long, let his hands linger an extra second when he gave her a side hug, and always had something to give: concert tickets, gift cards, candy from the place she likes. My wife used to say I was being dramatic. He's just sweet, she'd said. Sweet. That word curdled in my gut now. Because this sweet man was the one Macy named. The one who smiled across the table from me. The one I invited into our lives. Trusted. His name was Eric Winters. And just hearing the cop say it the next morning made my stomach flip. Do you know him? He asked. I just stared. Yeah, I said finally. He's my wife's coworker. Not just a coworker. Her work bestie. The one she texted constantly, even late at night. The one she claimed was safe because he was married and had a kid. I remembered a 4th of July barbecue where Macy looked uncomfortable the whole time. I thought it was because she didn't like crowds. Turns out she didn't like him. Now she was in a hospital bed, and that bastard was probably sipping coffee somewhere, thinking he'd gotten away with it. He hadn't. I made a call. Not to the cops, they already knew. No, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Logan. Ex-Army, private security now. Last I heard, he ran background checks and skip-trace jobs for divorce lawyers and hedge funds. The kind of guy who knows how to dig without leaving a trail. Eli, he said when he picked up. Man, it's been a minute. I need information, I said. And I need it quiet. You in trouble? Not yet. But someone else is about to be. A beat of silence. Give me a name. Eric Winters. 42. Works in real estate development. Wife's name is Candace. Kid named Theo. He didn't ask questions. Just said, give me a day. I hung up and stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror. And for the first time in years, I didn't recognize the man staring back at me. This wasn't just about Macy. This was about a pattern. If he did it to her, he's done it before. Or he'll do it again. And I wasn't going to let that happen. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through old photos. Family dinners. Birthday parties. Group shots with Eric's dumb face right there, smiling like he belonged. I zoomed in on one of them, Macy's birthday last year. Eric's hand was on her shoulder. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. How did I not see it? I saved the photo. Evidence. Everything I found now would be documented. Preserved. For the cops, or for me? Because here's the truth no one likes to admit. Sometimes justice needs a little push. And I was done sitting on the sidelines. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the living room in the dark, phone in hand, that photo still open on the screen, Eric's hand resting on my daughter's shoulder like he had a right to it, like he owned the space around her. I wanted to punch the screen until the pixels bled. Instead, I waited. At 8:04 a.m., I got a text from Logan. You were right to call. He's filth. I'll send a file. But this isn't just about Macy. I opened the attachment and felt the bottom drop out of my stomach. Eric Winters had been investigated twice. Once when he was 24. Another when he was 33. Both incidents sealed. No charges filed. The first one involved a 15-year-old babysitter. The report was vague, but she'd accused him of inappropriate touching after he offered to drive her home. The girl's family dropped the case after a closed-door meeting with Eric's lawyer and 2 city council members. The second? A junior intern at his old firm. She quit 3 months after he was promoted. Her statement: he makes me feel unsafe. He watches. He brushes up against me on purpose. But no charges. Just whispers. That's the thing about predators like Eric. They're polite. Charming. They play the long game. They know how to hover just outside the boundary of provable. They build a wall of doubt before they ever lay a finger on someone. But now, thanks to Macy's courage, I had more than whispers. I had a name. A timeline. And the kind of fury that doesn't go away with apologies or tears. Still, I had to keep the lid on. Pretend. Because as much as I wanted to storm his front door and rip the mask off his face in front of his wife and kid, I had to be smarter than that. If I exploded now, I'd lose the element of surprise, and worse, I'd risk Macy's safety again. So I went home. My wife was in the kitchen, sipping coffee, flipping through a recipe magazine like our whole world hadn't just cracked in half. She didn't look up when I walked in. You didn't come to bed. You didn't ask. That made her pause. She finally turned, giving me that cautious look she used when she thought I might bring up something inconvenient. How's Macy? She asked. Her tone was smooth. Too smooth. She's traumatized. The doctors are monitoring her for stress-induced mutism. Oh God, she whispered. A pause. Then, did she say anything yet? About what happened? That phrasing. About what happened. Not about who hurt her. Not about Eric. I narrowed my eyes. You tell me. She blinked. What? Claire, I said, stepping closer. Macy named someone. Someone close to the family. Someone you text constantly. Her face went white. Not shocked, caught. Wait, you think I knew? She whispered. Did you? I asked quietly. Silence. Then she said it. He told me they had an awkward moment once. That she had a crush on him. And he was trying to keep his distance. He swore nothing happened. A cold laugh escaped me. So you let him keep coming around. Let him bring her little gifts. Let him take her to that charity event without us last spring. You let him stay over after that company retreat, when he couldn't drive home. She didn't deny it. Didn't even cry. She just said, I didn't think it was real. There it was. The truth. Not that she didn't know, but that she didn't think it was real. Because if she admitted it was real, then she'd have to face what kind of mother she was. Instead, she chose comfort. Image. Silence. She let the wolf in. She turned her back while it fed. And I couldn't protect Macy from that. I stepped back, my voice low and lethal. Pack a bag. Eli, pack. A bag. Where am I supposed to go? I don't care. This house isn't for traitors. It's for people who protect our daughter. She tried to protest, but I was already walking away, already grabbing my phone. I didn't call the cops. I called Logan. Can you get eyes on Eric? I said. I need to know where he goes, who he talks to, what he's hiding, and I want it all legal. I want to hand his life to the police on a silver platter. No loopholes. No outs. Logan was quiet for a second. Then he said, I'll send a guy tonight. We'll get everything. I hung up and walked to Macy's room. She was curled under the blankets, eyes open now, staring at nothing, just drifting in the fog. I sat on the edge of her bed. She didn't move. Hey, baby, I whispered. You're safe now, and I'm going to make sure he never hurts you or anyone else again. I promise. Her lip trembled, just barely, but she didn't look away, and that was the first step back. Funny how a man can go his whole life thinking he's just average. I used to believe that. Husband, father, pays bills on time, changes the oil every 5,000 miles, fixes the leaky faucet, says yes, dear more than he should, just trying to keep the peace. But peace is a fragile illusion. And when it's broken, when you see what's been crawling behind the drywall the whole time, you don't go back to being average. You go hunting. Logan sent his guy the same night. Former Intel analyst named Troy. Quiet. Efficient. The kind of man who doesn't blink when you hand him a photo of a child predator and say, follow him. I want everything. He called me the next morning. Your guy's routine is tight. Gym at 6. Office by 8. Starbucks at 9:20. Lunch with a different woman every Tuesday. Back home by 6. Wife leaves for Pilates most nights around 7. And after that, he disappears for a couple hours. No predictable pattern. But tonight, we'll tail him. My guy's got the long lens and everything. Good, I said. I want faces. Places. License plates. If he's touching anyone else's kid, I want to know. You'll know. I hung up and stared at the ceiling of Macy's room. She was still quiet, but her eyes followed me now. She clutched that old hoodie of mine like a lifeline. I sat by her side and read aloud. Old books we used to love together. The Phantom Tollbooth, A Wrinkle in Time. Even some of those cheesy dad joke books she used to roll her eyes at. Anything to remind her I was still here. That night, I made a call I'd been avoiding. Candace Winters, Eric's wife. She answered on the third ring, breathless and distracted. Hello. Hi, Candace. This is Eli Hammond. A pause. Oh, Eric's friend. Claire's husband. Yes. No. Not anymore. I need to speak with you. Privately. It's important. Okay. Is this about the HOA? I know Eric was supposed to help with. No, Candace. It's about Eric. And it's about my daughter. The silence on the line was immediate. Sharp. I think you already know what I'm going to say, I added, soft but steady. Her voice trembled. Where? Coffee place on Maple. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. No Eric. Just us. She didn't argue. She just said, okay. Click. The next morning, I arrived early. Sat by the window. Black coffee. No sugar. No cream. Bitterness was the only flavor I could stomach these days. Candace walked in at exactly 9:58. She looked like a woman who'd spent the night unraveling. No makeup, hair tied in a loose, tired bun. Wearing the kind of sweater you pull on when you stop caring who's watching. She sat down, folded her hands, and looked me in the eyes. "You're not the first," she said, before I could even speak. I stared. "I knew something was wrong," she continued. "Years ago, there was a girl, a babysitter. Eric said it was all a misunderstanding, that her family was trying to blackmail us. I believed him." Her voice cracked. "And then there was someone else. At his last job. A receptionist. But again, excuses. She was flirting with me. She's crazy. She wants money." And like an idiot, I chose to believe him. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. Inside, emails, screenshots, receipts. Stuff she'd been collecting. "I didn't know about your daughter," she whispered. "But now everything makes sense. The way he insisted on bringing her little gifts. The way he'd volunteer to take her places when you two were busy." I clenched my jaw. "And you didn't say anything?" "I wanted to," she said, shame all over her face. "But every time I got close, he'd threaten to take Theo. Said no one would believe me. Said I'd ruin our son's life." I stared at her. "You stayed quiet to protect your child, while mine was being destroyed." "I know," she whispered. I took a breath. I wanted to scream. But not here. Not yet. Instead, I slid a small USB drive across the table. "What's this?" she asked. "Everything Logan's found so far. Your husband's secrets. His meetings. His patterns. His accounts. And soon, his victims." I looked her square in the eyes. "You have a choice, Candace. You can help me stop him. Or you can keep pretending this isn't your fault, too." Tears welled in her eyes. But she didn't look away. "What do you need?" she asked. I smiled. Cold, satisfied, controlled. "We're going to destroy him. But not in anger. Not with fists or fury. With truth. There's a moment, right before a building collapses, when everything goes quiet. Just for a second. The structure holds its breath, unaware it's about to die. That's where Eric was, whether he knew it or not. I was done pacing. Done shaking. Now I was building something of my own. A reckoning. Candace followed through. I'll give her that. Maybe guilt's a hell of a motivator. Or maybe she'd finally seen the monster sleeping in her bed and realized it was time to light the damn house on fire. She gave me access to his laptop. Not directly, of course. That would be too easy. But she installed a small software tool Logan provided. Clean, untraceable, the kind of thing built for men who knew how to listen without breathing. Within hours, Logan and his team were combing through every email, chat, hidden folder. The first thing we found? A Dropbox link, buried under a folder labeled Tax Docs Q3. Inside, videos, photos, surveillance-level footage of girls, teenagers, recorded without their knowledge. Some were pixelated, most were too dark to identify clearly, but one wasn't. Macy, sitting in the passenger seat of his car, tying her hair back, smiling awkwardly. There was no sound, just that grainy silence you get from dashboard cams and monsters pretending to be people. That was the moment Logan said it out loud. "This isn't just a predator. This is a collector." I took the USB, labeled it Journal, and slipped it into a small wooden box I kept in the safe. This wasn't just evidence. It was insurance. We could have gone to the cops right then, but I wasn't ready yet. I didn't want Eric in cuffs. Not yet. I wanted his world to dissolve. One crack at a time. I wanted him to wonder, to sweat, to feel the paranoia that Macy now lived with every day. So we moved. Step 1, exposure. I contacted a reporter. A local one. Not the kind that chases car crashes, but the kind who digs into corruption. Her name was Liana Mendez. I sent her one photo. One line. "This man is not who he pretends to be. Meet me tomorrow." No cops. She met me in a grocery store parking lot, sitting 2 rows over from the cart return like we were planning a heist. "I assume this is about Eric Winters," she said, cool, smart. I gave her a burner phone. Nothing that could be traced back to Macy or Candace. No digital fingerprints. On it, documents. Patterns. Images, nothing explicit, but damning enough. She scrolled through it, her eyes narrowing. "He's on the board of the local youth mentorship program," she said. "And he sponsors that community art fund." "Exactly," I said. "And you're about to make sure the whole world knows who they've really been taking money from." She nodded slowly. "This'll make waves." "Good," I said. "I'm counting on it." As I pulled out of the lot, my phone buzzed. It was Macy's doctor. "Mr. Hammond," she said gently. "Macy spoke today. Not much. But she asked to go home." I pulled over. Let the tears fall for the first time since this all began. Not because I was weak, but because something cracked open inside me. Not grief. Relief. I brought her home that night. Her room was clean, soft, just how she left it. But I'd added something new, a camera. Hidden, secure, part of a system Logan installed. No more blind spots. Not in my house. Macy didn't say much. Just laid in her bed and whispered, "Is he gone?" I sat down beside her and nodded. "He's not gone yet. But he will be." She looked up at me, her eyes still too old for her age. "Will he get away with it?" she asked. "No," I said. "I promise you, baby. He's going to lose everything." She didn't speak again, but she reached out and held my hand. Her grip was small, but it was there. And it meant she wasn't just surviving now. She was trusting again. The next morning, Eric showed up on my front lawn. Just stood there, khakis, pressed shirt, fake smile stapled to his face like he was still auditioning for the harmless suburban dad role. I opened the door, didn't say a word. He smiled wide, fake as ever. "Hey, Eli. Look, I know this is a little awkward, but Claire called me. Said things were tense. Figured I'd check in." Claire. Of course she'd go running to him. Some habits die hard. "You're not welcome here," I said. He blinked. "Whoa, no need to get weird. I just thought." "I know what you did." That shut him up. Dead quiet. His eyes twitched just a bit. The fake smile faltered. "I'm not sure You touched my daughter," I said, voice low, calm. "You hurt her. And I'm going to make sure the whole world sees what you are." He tried to laugh. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "I know about the babysitter," I said. "The intern. The drive-by photos. The files you labeled tax docs." His mouth twitched. "You can't prove anything." "Oh, but I can." He took a step forward. "You're bluffing." "No," I said. "You're panicking." And then I stepped back and closed the door in his face. Let him stand there. Let him boil. Let him feel the first tremor before the whole house collapsed. The building hadn't fallen yet, but it was swaying, and the cracks were loud. Eric didn't knock. He stood on my lawn for a full minute after I shut the door, hands twitching at his sides, face twitching in slow-motion disbelief. That's the thing about predators. They build their whole identity around the lie that they're safe, clean, untouchable. And when you pull that mask off, they don't know who they are anymore. I watched from the hallway camera feed as he finally backed off. No shouting, no threats. Just a man retreating fast. And that was good, because now I knew I'd rattled him. Rattled men leak secrets. That afternoon, Logan sent an encrypted file titled WHISBRCCHAN. It was a dump from Eric's sync devices, his work laptop, his iCloud, even his supposedly private messaging app. Logan's guy had cracked it in under 4 hours. Inside were texts from the past year, a slow trail of rot and vanity, just like I expected. But one thread stood out. "Eric, to D, she's too clingy. Starting to ask questions. D, then back off. You're sloppy lately. Eric, it's under control. Her parents are clueless." Another one, weeks later. D, the drop was short this month. Again. Eric, money's tighter. You're not the one risking everything. D, you're not the only one with skin in the game. Remember that. I stared at those initials. D. Who the hell was D? Candace didn't know. Neither did Claire. Logan began digging, cross-referencing aliases, burner phones, overlapping contact names across Eric's accounts. And then came the match. D was Derek Niles, Eric's real estate partner. Silent on the company website. No LinkedIn. Just a name on paperwork. But Logan had already traced payments from Eric's shell company to a private account in Derek's name. Monthly. This wasn't just about abuse. It was organized. I called Liana, the reporter. "You want bigger than a predator?" I asked. She said, "I'm listening." I told her everything. Derek. The payments. The messages. The implication of a cover-up. She went quiet for a second. Then, "This is going federal." Exactly what I wanted to hear. That night, I found Claire in the kitchen, sitting at the table like she used to do when things were still normal, back when we talked about refinancing the house or Macy's science project or what to grill on Sunday. Only now, her eyes didn't hold warmth, just guilt and fear. She didn't even look up. "I heard he came by," she said. "Yep, I heard what you said. I wasn't subtle." She nodded. "He called me afterward. Said you were making threats." I poured a glass of water. "He's lying." She looked up. "So are you." That stung more than I expected. "You knew," I said softly. "Maybe not everything, but enough." "You looked away, Claire. You saw the cracks and told yourself they were just shadows." Her eyes filled, but I didn't care. You're not the one bleeding, I added. Macy is. She wiped her face and whispered, What do you want from me? Leave. Again. No. For good. She flinched. I slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside, divorce papers. Not out of anger. Not out of vengeance. Just clarity. You chose the wrong people, I said. You let a snake into our house, and now my daughter has scars because you didn't want to be the bad guy. She didn't argue. Didn't cry. She just nodded. Like she finally saw the version of me she'd been too distracted to recognize. I wasn't the average man anymore. I was the reckoning they never saw coming. The next day, the bomb dropped. Liana published the piece, Beneath the Surface, The Quiet Predators of Willow Glen. Photos, screenshots, quotes from unnamed sources, and one anonymous voice, mine. A father. The story blew up. Social media flooded. Local news picked it up by noon. Then the bigger outlets by sundown. By midnight, Eric's house was dark. His business website offline. His car? Missing from the driveway. But I wasn't worried, because Logan already had his team tracking every move. At 1:32 a.m., I got the text. Your boy's running, but not smart. Flight from Portland tomorrow. Booked under his partner's name. They always run. They just forget we have maps. I got up, walked to Macy's room, and found her asleep, peacefully this time. No nightmares. Just quiet breathing, blanket up to her chin, clutching that hoodie like it was the only thing tethering her to this world. And maybe it was. But now she had something else. She had me. Not the version that said, I'll handle it, and then shrank away. No. The version that said, I already did. Predators think they're smarter than the rest of us. That's part of the disease, believing they're the only ones who know how the world works, how to stay 2 steps ahead. Eric thought he could run. He didn't know I was already waiting at the finish line. Logan's guy was parked near the airport by 5 a.m. Eric didn't show up right away. He waited until the last minute, probably figuring that if he delayed his departure, he'd shake off anyone watching. But paranoia makes people stupid. He used Derek Niles' name to book the ticket. Sloppy. That alone was enough to tie Derek directly into the escape. No more whispers, no more deniability. Now I had 2 men on a plane bound for nowhere. Eric pulled up around 6:50 a.m. Logan's guy, Troy, caught the whole thing on camera video, timestamped. Eric in a hoodie and baseball cap, looking like a bad actor in a made-for-TV crime special. He had a duffel bag, dark sunglasses, and a nervous tick in his jaw. He knew the walls were closing in. I was already on the phone with Liana. You ready for round 2? I asked. She didn't hesitate. Just give me the airport. I'll have someone at the gate. By 7:10, Liana's photographer was snapping high-res shots of Eric heading into the terminal. Meanwhile, Logan had already alerted a contact at the local FBI field office, an old friend from their military intel days. Nothing official yet. Just a whisper. But the whisper was enough. At 7:38, just as Eric was stepping through the TSA checkpoint, 2 plainclothes agents intercepted him. No cuffs. Not yet. Just a random screening. That's how it starts. By the time they'd taken him to a back room, Eric's phone had been seized. Not just for photos, but for what it might reveal about the network of silence he and Derek built over the years. Hidden accounts. Encrypted messages. GPS logs. The predators were about to get hunted. Back home, I sat in my kitchen staring at the clock. 8 a.m. Claire had officially moved out. Her car was gone, her closet empty. No drama. No argument. She left a note on the counter, 3 sentences, scrawled on lined notebook paper like a high school breakup letter. I never meant to fail Macy. I see that now. I hope one day she'll forgive me. I know you won't. She was right. I wouldn't. Forgiveness is for mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. This was neglect dressed in designer boots. Letting Eric near our daughter, repeatedly, wasn't a lapse in judgment. It was the quiet kind of betrayal. The kind that doesn't leave bruises, but leaves everything broken just the same. I took her note and shoved it in the shredder. Then I went to check on Macy. She was up, sitting cross-legged on her bed, hoodie on, headphones in. She looked at me as I entered, eyes clearer now. Not healed, but present. Did something happen? She asked. I hesitated. Then I nodded. He tried to run. She tilted her head, but we stopped him. A small, almost invisible smile touched the corner of her mouth. She pulled out one earbud and said quietly, "Good." And for a second, just a second, I saw my little girl again. Not the broken survivor. Not the fragile witness. Just Macy. Strong. Resilient. Still here. Still fighting. Later that day, Candace called me. Her voice was low. Hoarse. They're questioning him now, she said. The feds. They came to my house this morning. Asked me about Derek. About Eric's shell companies. About those photos. Did you tell them everything? Everything, she said. I gave them the burner phone. The emails. I even gave them access to our financial records. You did the right thing. I should have done it years ago, she said. Then, after a pause, do you think this is enough? I leaned back in my chair. He's not walking away from this, I said. Not this time. I wasn't guessing. Because while the FBI had him tied up in a conference room, Logan sent me a final file. It was labeled hatch marks. Inside were 3 names. 3 other girls. Different states. Different years. One as young as 12. The photos were old. The metadata was intact. One of them was even tagged with a GPS location, just a mile from where Eric used to live before he met Claire. A pattern. A trail. Proof. This wasn't about Macy anymore. It never was. This was who he'd always been. But now we had him. All of him. And Derek? His financial ties were already under audit. We'd traced payments to a consulting firm that didn't exist, just a name on a ledger, backed by withdrawals and off-the-books gifts. It was all going up in flames. I poured a whiskey that night, sat on the back porch, watched the sky change colors over our neighborhood, the same houses where people waved at Eric every morning like he was just another suburban dad. I knew better now. And tomorrow, they would too. The last line of Liana's article had gone viral. Sometimes monsters don't hide under your bed. They mow their lawn. They coach Little League. They sit beside you in church. But the truth always comes home. Eventually. Damn right it does. And this time, it came home with teeth. They say the justice system is slow, that it creaks and groans under the weight of paperwork and politics. And maybe that's true, if you sit back and wait for it to move. But I wasn't waiting. I was pushing. By the end of the week, the grand jury was assembled. Eric wasn't arrested that morning, not in front of the cameras. The FBI doesn't always give you the satisfaction of sirens and cuffs. They prefer silence. Precision. Let the monster think he might still talk his way out of this, before slamming the cell door shut with no warning. But the warrant came fast. Child exploitation. Digital evidence. Conspiracy to obstruct reporting of abuse. Multiple counts. And not just Eric. Derek Niles' name showed up on the federal indictment too. Turns out when you knowingly fund a predator's silence, they don't just call you a business partner. They call you a co-conspirator. Liana broke the follow-up story the next day. Front page. Indictments rock Willow Glen. FBI charges developer, business partner in child exploitation ring. You know how many people read it? All of them. The neighbors who used to wave at Eric across their white picket fences. The teachers who called him charming. The same men who slapped his back at barbecues, saying things like, Eric's such a stand-up guy. Not anymore. Now they avoided his house like it was cursed. Crossed the street when they walked their dogs. Pretended they didn't know. But I remembered. I remembered who vouched for him. Who dismissed the whispers. Who told me, more than once, that I was too protective of Macy. They don't get to act innocent now. At home, things were quiet. Not in a sad way. In the way that says peace is rebuilding. Macy was healing. Slowly, in pieces. Her therapist said it would take time, and I believed it. But she was laughing more. Eating more. She even painted again. Nothing fancy. Just abstract smears of blue and gold and red. But that was the point. She was expressing what her words hadn't yet touched. One evening, I walked past her room and saw her standing at the window, sketchbook open, looking out at the stars. She turned to me. He's really gone? She asked. Yes, I said. And he's never coming back. That night, I didn't just sleep. I rested. For the first time in months, I let my body go limp in bed and felt the kind of silence that isn't empty, but earned. The fallout was just beginning. Eric's wife Candace filed for divorce. Full custody of Theo. Changed her last name back immediately. The school board issued a statement. His mentorship program was disbanded. The HOA stripped his name from the plaque on the community center. Claire reached out once, via email. Just one line. I was wrong. I see that now. I didn't respond. She was wrong. But that realization didn't buy her a seat at our table again. Some things stay broken. And that's okay. I wasn't interested in rebuilding a marriage based on selective blindness and polite lies. I was building something better now. Truth. Safety. Control. And no more secrets. 1 week later, I stood outside the courthouse. Logan was next to me. He'd flown in for the preliminary hearing. He looked over and said, "You're not like most of the guys I've worked with." "How so?" "They get angry. They want blood. You didn't want revenge." "I wanted him seen." Logan nodded. "That's worse for men like him," he said. "They can live in a cell. They can survive court. But being known? Truly known." He smirked. "That's a life sentence." Inside, I watched as Eric was led into the courtroom. Handcuffed. Hollow-eyed. No swagger. No mask. The courtroom was packed. Journalists. Former co-workers. Parents. Whispering. Eyes wide. Phones recording. He glanced at me, and I stared right back. No rage. No fear. Just clarity. He knew. He knew it was me who'd lit the match. Me who peeled back every lie, every layer, every excuse. He looked away first. Like a coward. Like the predator he was. And then the judge spoke. "This court acknowledges the charges brought forth against Mr. Eric Winters and Mr. Derek Niles, including but not limited to exploitation, possession of illicit materials, and criminal conspiracy." The words blurred after a while, but one line echoed like a drum in my chest. "The prosecution has sufficient grounds to proceed to trial." I didn't smile. I didn't need to. That part came later, when the verdict finally dropped. And everyone would know. This wasn't just justice. This was war made quiet. And I'd won. You think it ends in the courtroom. You think once the cuffs are on and the press has their headline, the weight lifts and life picks up where it left off. But no. Justice is a process, not a finish line. And silence? Silence has a long half-life. In the weeks that followed Eric's indictment, the town of Willow Glen went into denial mode. I watched people scrub his name from emails, untag old photos on social media, quietly reassign projects he used to lead. Nobody said his name out loud anymore, like he was Voldemort. And yet, everywhere I went, I saw it. Whispers. Stares. Sympathy etched with guilt. Because deep down, they all knew. They knew someone like Eric doesn't get that close to that many families unless he's being welcomed in. He was enabled. Protected. And some of those same people had told me to lighten up when I questioned why a man with no kids of his own was always signing up to chaperone middle school field trips, or why he spent so much time mentoring girls barely old enough to drive. You know what the principal said when I raised concerns a year ago? He's one of our most engaged community members, Mr. Hammond. We're lucky to have volunteers like him. Lucky, right? I filed a civil suit. Not just against Eric. Against the program. The district. The nonprofit that let him sit on their board with zero oversight. My lawyer said it would be an uphill battle. That they'd try to bury me in red tape. I told him I wasn't looking for money. I was looking for names. Depositions. Under oath. Make them squirm in the same way Macy had to sit under fluorescent lights in a hospital gown answering questions no child should ever hear. If I had to bleed them dry just to get the names of every coward who turned their head, so be it. Because healing isn't just about what you remove. It's about what you expose. At home, things were better. I won't lie and say everything was perfect. Trauma doesn't work that way. But Macy was showing sparks of herself again. One afternoon I found her playing piano. Just a few notes, nothing fancy but real. Alive. And when I walked in, she didn't stop. She let me listen. That was her way of saying, "I'm okay." We started going for walks again, down the block, past the park, around the edge of the neighborhood. She didn't like to talk much, not about him, not anymore. But she asked about everything else. Birds. Music. What clouds reminded her of. Things that don't hurt. Sometimes we'd pass people who used to smile at us and now avoided eye contact. Once, a woman crossed the street before we even got near. Macy noticed. "Why are they weird now?" she asked. I thought for a second, then said, "Because they're ashamed. They saw what happened and realized they should have done something. But now they're just afraid I'll remind them of that." "Good," she said. "God, I love that girl." Claire kept her distance. She didn't fight the divorce. Didn't try to wiggle her way into visitation or mutual therapy or shared custody. The truth is, I think she knew her role in all of it, even if she'd never say it out loud. She'd made her bed with a man who made my daughter afraid of shadows, of sleep, of silence. You don't come back from that. The only email she sent after the papers were signed was short. Just a scanned receipt confirming she'd sent the ring back. My grandmother's ring, wrapped in velvet, returned to me like a broken apology. I didn't open the box. I gave it to Macy instead. Told her it was hers, if she ever wanted it one day. She looked at it for a long time and said, maybe. And that was enough. Liana called a few nights later. I got a lead, she said. You'll want to see this. It was a video. Grainy footage from an old-school fundraiser. Eric, on stage, smiling, mic in hand, talking about protecting the youth. Behind him, Derek, laughing, clapping. And in the crowd, a teacher, a principal, 2 board members from the mentorship program. All people who'd later claim they never saw a sign. Liana paused the video. What do you want to do with this? I said, send it to the prosecutors. And make it public. You sure? Yeah, because this will make people angry. The towel turn on itself. Then let it. I wasn't here to make Willow Glen feel better about itself. I was here to clean house. If people wanted to keep their heads down while kids were getting hurt, they didn't deserve comfort now. They deserved consequences.